Good morning. Morning where I am. I don't know what time it is where you are, but it's morning right here. So we are doing the third video in our series of Cappy's a Bag. My name's Cappy, and I'm from Always in Stitches in Noblesville, Indiana, and I am a bag. I own it. You know, that's Peter's behind the camera today, and by golly, I'm a bag and I own it. So we do a bag class series, and this series is available on our YouTube channel. So if you don't have to watch all three of them so far, but they do build skills on each other. So previously we've made, and I'll show you real quick over here, we made a bag called a drawstring bag, which was this pattern, a lined drawstring bag, which was super, super fun. Gave you lots of different sizes and choices. The skill we learned with that was how to make a gusset. And each time we do a class, we're focusing on a particular skill. So that's where we learned to make a gusset. And then the next, and if you don't know what that is, go watch the video. I don't have time to tell you today. We're doing something else. The next thing we made is these little things. These are called Fabios. If you know who Fabio is, you'll think that's funny. If you don't, look up Fabio. But anyway, these little Fabios, and what these are key fobs. You can hang keys off of them. You can attach another bag to them and use it to carry on your wrist. They're handy little things, but this skill we learned how to put in a zipper, which zippers terrify people for some reason, and they're really not hard. It's just a piece of fabric with a little nub on it, so it's the same piece of fabric at the end of the day. So that's what we made last time. And this time, we're going to combine both those skills and put a zipper in a bag with a gusset. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so fun. Peter's got to take one of my classes before, so he knows that I'm all about taking the time to learn the skill so that when you make the project, it turns out perfect. So let me talk to you a little bit first about interfacing. So in this project is what's called soft and stable, or foam interfacing, and what we're making this time is a Bitsy box. This pattern is by Bodabo Bags. I love this bag. I've made this little bitty box a gazillion times. I've got a whole bunch of them over here to show you. There's one. Now there's little danglies off of them, and if you know, that's a whole nother class, but here they are, and you see it's just a little bag, and oh look, there's our Fabio from last time. I put it on there, and now I have a little wristlet to carry around. But these just have a little zipper in them. They just open up. Great size for Easter's coming. Put a little bit of Easter candy in it, give it to somebody to have as a gift. You can use these for change bags. You can use them for just all kinds of things. I've made them for people and given them as gifts, and I'll be at lunch with my friends and I'll see them pull it out and it'll have their lipstick in it, or you know, some change or whatever. So they're just little bitty boxes. They're fun to make. They're great scrap busters, and the skill that I like in them is you learn to put an inset zipper. We're going to learn to do some quilting, and I can really talk to you about interfacing. And then these are just gussets all the way around. So we're building on what we did before. So let's get down to it. Now that you've seen them and they're so cute. You never have enough of these. They're kind of like a Lay's potato chip. You can't eat just one. So let's talk about interfacing. This particular pattern calls for a product called Soft and Stable, which is this. This is an original stabilizer from By Annie's. I think this has been out maybe, I'd say about 5 or 6 years. I don't know. It comes in these big sheets. Gosh, I've used this for a long time for a lot of things. What happens when you make different bags is you want different stability. And we have crickets. Do you hear crickets? Thinking that's somebody's phone. So when we made these bags, this bag here, this is from the first video, there's no interfacing in this whatsoever because I don't really need it. This is designed to just stuff things in it. So it's just fabric on fabric. It has no shape whatsoever. That's fine. I don't care to have shape in that. If I wanted shape, I could put Soft and Stable in it. And what's cool about Soft and Stable is wherever I sew, I get an instant crease. Okay, it makes a crease. But soft and stable is not adhesive. It's not fusible. And so that means in order to get the fabric connected to it on the front and the back, I have to quilt it. And that's not a bad thing. I actually will use this and take a whole sheet of it. It's 36 by 58, so I'll get about 1.5 yards of fabric, and for the front and the back, quilt the entire piece, and then I can just cut out the chunks that I need to make my projects. If you have a long arm machine, this is a great way to do that because you can put all kinds of patterns on it. And it just saves you some time to have it already put together, especially if you're going to make several bags and you need a lot of pieces. It's easy to just do it all in one piece and then cut it up. So that's soft and stable. The other one that I kind of like is my darling is this one. This is made by the Bosaw company. Same product as far as it's a foam interfacing, but it's two-sided fusible, and that means I can skip the quilting. That means that I can fuse the top and the bottom to this fabric, fuse the top and the bottom fabric to both sides of this foam, and then I don't have to quilt it because it stays fused. That's a real plus for me, especially in a little project like this where I don't necessarily have to quilt it. I could just iron it and it's going to stay in place. So that's a good choice too. And then beyond that, we just have our normal stabilizers. You've got, this is a fusible polyester. It's got a pretty good density to it. And the shiny side, and I don't know if does it pick up on film, Peter? There's a shiny side. That's the fusible, that's the glue. And then the smooth, the kind of rougher side is not fusible. That's just plain. But the fusible side, when you put it against your fabric and put an iron on it, it absolutely just stays in place. And I love that about it. It also gives a nice density. Now, if I wanted to get, before we had soft and stable, if I wanted to have a stiffer bag, I would use this and I would add to it just your standard interfacing. So this is an interfacing. Again, it's fusible, and I can layer these. So I can put a layer of this fusible along with this interfacing, and I can get a density that makes me have the bag the weight that I want it. Sometimes the soft and stable is too stable. I don't want it quite that much. I want a little more more fluid, more supple bag than what that creates. So I can change that out. The other thing, this is another interfacing. It's a little thinner. It's not got much density to it at all, but it's just enough to kind of give it a solid thing to work with, especially when you're talking about a bag that's going to get a lot of wear and tear and it's a cotton fabric instead of a twill. Sometimes putting the stabilizer in there, this is a heat and bond, what's this one? Medium weight, iron-on fusible interfacing. This one gives it just enough stability that's going to, the wear and tear on the bag is going to be a little easier. And then the other thing that we use is this. It's called Peltex. And this is like, gosh, it's almost like cardboard. It's also fusible. Sometimes it's two-sided, sometimes it's one-sided. This happens to be two-sided, so it's like the other one that I showed you, that it's fusible this side and this side, which means I can iron fabric on both sides with a sandwich and use this. Typically, I use this in the bottom of a bag to give it stability, to give it some firmness so that it can withstand being the weight of whatever's put in it. So that's what you need to know about fusibles. The fusibles and the type of fusible you use determines the quality of your bag. It really does. And it will make a difference long term on the wear and tear of a bag. So with this pattern, we have the soft and stable, like I told you about initially, and you're directed to quilt it. And you cut out the size piece that they tell you. The size piece that they do, this is very small. I mean, you can see in my hand, it's not a very big. It's called a bitty bag, and that's bitty. It is. It's tiny. You can change that size. You need to remember when you get a pattern for any project, it's just a matter of saying, oh, that's the outline. I want to make it bigger. So I can take the dimensions in the pattern and, you know, take the width times 3 or 4 and take the length times 3 or 4, and I just get a bigger box. It doesn't change the relativity of the two dimensions other than they're just bigger. So if this isn't big enough, you can make this as big as you want. So what I have to do is do quilting lines. And quilting lines can sometimes be something that people are like, oh, how do I get even lines? How do I get them exactly the same? Well, let's go to my sewing machine here real quick and let me show you how we do that. So, I'm at my sewing machine and I have a 40 weight thread because I'm sewing with a heavier thread because it's a bag that I'm working on, and I want a heavier weight thread. It's going to withstand the wear and tear. And I'm going to do top stitching, so I want it to be big too. I've got my needle set at my stitch length set at 3.0, and I have my walking foot on the machine. Anytime I'm going through as many layers as I have here, a walking foot is a good choice. If you don't have a walking foot, you might want to think about getting one because they're really helpful going through layers when you do bags. The other thing this machine has is it allows me to set the pressure of the presser foot. That's what this dial does right here. And I'm going to back that off to like 2, maybe even 1 as things get thicker, because I want the space between the bottom of the presser foot and the foot plate to be sufficient for this fabric to move through. And if I notice it, you know, it's tugging it, then I need to back off on that pressure a little bit if you have that option on your machine. So in order to do straight lines, it's pretty easy. I'm going to start, and there's lots of ways to do this. I could take and draw a line if I wanted to, if I'm just going to do straight lines. And that's not hard. You draw the line, then you sew on the line. But, you know, I'm the lazy sewist, so I don't want to do that. So what I do is I'll stitch one line on, and that's what I've done here, is I've stitched a line, and then I just start watching from the edge of my foot to the next line what that distance is, and I place the foot right on that line, and I'll sew another line. And I'll place the foot on, and I'll sew another line. And I'll place the foot, and I'll sew another line. If those end up being too far apart, I'll go back between them and just look at the lines on either side of the foot and sew between those. This is not an exact science with this. It doesn't have to be perfect. And this is a bigger piece than what I'm going to use because I cut it to size. She has you cut it bigger than what you need to make your project so that we can trim it. So let me just show you real quick what this looks like to cut it, to sew. So when I sew, I'm just following this line right here from what I did before, and I'm drawing another line. Now, what I'm going to tell you is this fabric has a tendency to shift. So when I sew this way, the fabric kind of pushes this direction. So when I sew, I try to turn around and sew from the other direction. Because if you can see how that's shifted there a little bit? And now this part's showing here. If you just go back, if you go from one side all the time, eventually your fabric will be like that. And you won't have it nice and flat. You can take binder clips and clip it in place or pin it in place, but it still tends to wobble. So when I'm just doing straight line quilting like this, I try to go from opposite sides each time so that it stays where I want it. And this is kind of brainless. I like doing this. It's just straight lines. You can do cross hatches, you can do swirls, you can do free motion, whatever you want to do. The goal is to just get the fabric connected to itself. So I'm going to do that all the way across here. Now I went the same direction twice in a row. I just did what I said I shouldn't do, didn't I? I should be going opposite. It'll be okay on this one. And I am locking my stitch at the end, but I'm going to cut all that off anyway. It's just because as I hit the lock, it turns my machine, it cuts the thread. Now I could draw these lines. If that makes you happy, draw the lines, that's fine. But I like just using the edge of my foot to find the location of where my next line is going to go. That's just rolling that up. Okay, so I'm going to do that across the entire piece, all the way down, so that I get these at a distance that I like. These are a little closer than those were, but I used a different foot to do them, can you tell? So now I've just quilted that. Let's go over here and let me show you what that looks like. So here's the one that I've been working on. Same thing. I just quilted these, and because I did them all with the same foot on the same machine, they're the same distance apart. This is my inside, this is my outside. And then what she tells you to do is to cut this piece to the dimensions that she wants it to be. And I'm not telling those dimensions because you got to buy the pattern. But I know that no matter how I make this, whatever size I cut it to, it's still going to work out. So typically I try to just make sure that my quilting lines up. So I put that line on the 1/4 inch and I trim this side. And I go over here, I put that line on the 1/4 inch, I trim this side. And then I square this up by putting the straight line of the ruler here, a straight line of the ruler here, and I square that edge. Because the important part is that these corners are exactly 45-degree angles and that it's very square. That's going to help you long term. The next thing I get to do is put in a zipper. Now, if you watched my previous video, you know that I'm all about changing the zipper heads. I love to have a zipper head that doesn't match my zipper tape. I just think that's fun. You can pretty much tell every project I do, I'm changing the zipper heads. This one, it's a copper zipper head. This one's got a green zipper head against a blue, purple. See, it's just fun. I can't help it. I gotta change zipper heads. I've got a small fortune invested in zipper heads just because I think it's fun. It just adds a little extra bling to your project to have the zipper head not match. And the zipper's got a big enough hole, I make these little things to hang off of it because that's just fun. It's all about fun, folks. If you're not having fun, don't do it. Okay, so to put my zipper in, she tells you in the instructions to put it face down on the right side of the fabric. So this is my right side, and I'm going to put this face down. And I've used, if you can see, I've used zipper parts. I had 2 different zippers. I'll pull that off so you can see. I had 2 different pieces of a zipper left. You could even use different zipper ties that didn't match each other if you wanted to. And to put this on here, I slide this up one side. Let's do it this way. Slide it up one side. And then I trim just a little bit off of the other zipper. The width of this head. I trim that off. And then I can push that down into the other zipper. There's lots of videos on how to do this. And then I pull, and that puts the zipper right back together. Okay, so now I have a zipper, change the head, and I'm going to put it on here. Here's the zipper tape. I'm all about this zipper tape. I'm just telling you, if you don't have this double adhesive, get you some. Rather than put it on the fabric, I'm going to put it on the zipper. Now this happens to be a bag zipper, so it's wider than the standard small zipper that you buy. And it has lines on it that may or may not show up on the camera, but there's lines that show you where to sew and where not to sew. So I'm going to put this little piece of tape on here at the edge. This zipper tape is wonderful. I use it for lots of things. Alright, there's my zipper tape. And it sticks, and then when you pull this off, now I have stickiness. See? Stickiness. And I can lay that down on this edge, right against the edge. Okay, just like that. I'm going to pull that out a little farther so it doesn't hurt. Now I'm going to sew this down right along that edge. So we're at the machine, and I've put my zipper foot on my machine. You can see what it looks like. Every machine typically comes with a zipper foot. This one, in order to sew on different sides of the zipper, I just have to move my needle position. You can see the needle's moving. I can sew on that side, I can sew in the middle, or I can sew on the right side. And for this particular one, I'm going to sew right here in the middle. And zipper foots really are helpful because I want to get up close to this, as close to this as I can, but still leave room for the zipper head. So if you look on a zipper, they'll always have, there's an area here that's a little different stitching, and I want to be sure I stay on the outside of that, because if I go on the inside of that, I'm going to prevent the zipper head from having room to move. So I know I'm on the outside of that. I got my zipper head out of the way, and I'm going to stitch this, and I'm going to stitch it fairly snug. There we go. So I stitch it on one side. And she stayed nice and straight. So that's just stitched down along one side. The next step you do, which just seems, is you're going to stitch it down on the other side. So I'm going to fold it in half, right sides together. I want to make sure this lines up so that I don't do like that and sew it, because that'll mess it up. I want this to be nice and even. And I'm going to put my zipper tape on again on this side, on the zipper. Now I could put it on the fabric, you know, that's not a horrible choice, but I like to put it on the zipper. I just feel like it's the zipper that I have a hard time holding down. Zipper tape. I don't know how I ever did. I did garments for years. I don't know how I ever did it without zipper tape, but I did. That's part of what makes zippers so much easier now. So now I'm going to bring these two together, making sure that this lines up, that that's nice and flat. And I put my zipper on there. See, that's nice and even. And I come across. See, no pins. I'm the no pin girl. Give me glue, give me tape, give me binder clips. No pins. There we go. And see, and it evens there. So this is nice and flat. Now I'm going to sew it again. Same thing. I'm going to get in there. I'm making sure that I'm not in this part that's going to prevent it from the head from moving. And I'm going to sew. Okay. Lock. That's part of what makes these projects so fun, is they're really quick. So now I have something that looks like that. It's a little tube. So now that I've sewed my zipper in on both sides, it's completely sewn in, I'm going to do a zigzag stitch over this raw edge here. And I just picked the zigzag stitch on my machine. Now I want this to be fairly wide because I want to be sure I catch all of this edge. So the width right now on my zigzag stitch is 3.0, but I'm going to go up to like 5.0 on my width. The length is 1.5. I'm good with that, but I really want a pretty wide stitch. Your machine will have different settings based on what it does. Now, I have to do this with a zipper foot. So let's put the zipper foot back on. No, I can't do it with a zipper foot. So I have to do it with this foot. Zipper foot would not work. So this is going to be kind of fun because there's some density there, but we'll get through it. So here we go. Now when I'm zigzagging, I'm letting the zigzag drop off the edge of the fabric over here, so then it seals this edge. So it lands on the fabric here, but it's just off the fabric there. So when you look at it, it's almost like doing a serger. If you've got a serger, you can run this through a serger too. But that's what I'm doing. I'm catching that side. And that's just sealing that edge. There's enough stitches in there, it probably would hold. But it gives it a finished edge because we're not going to put any bindings on these or anything. It's just going to close that up. I'm going to push my zipper off. But I know how to put it back on. So I'm going to do that on both sides. So there's a finished edge. See? Stitched. That orange really shows up against that, doesn't it?
It's pretty.
It is pretty. The fabric that I'm using, some of this is Tula, some of it is a designer named Mulga. He's a fairly new designer in the fabric world. He's been a graphic artist in Australia for a while. Love, 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 love his fabric. It is so cheerful. Just makes me smile. That's what fabric should do, is make us smile. Okay, so I finished those edges, and now that just prevents it from being raw. It's going to be tucked in completely. You won't even see it, but it's just a finished edge there now, so it's complete. And then I take my marking pen and I find the middle on this. So I put that even to even, and I take my friction pen and I'm putting a dot there, and same thing on this side, and I'm putting a dot there, so that I know that's the middle. And then I'm going to take my little tabs that are on either side to help the zipper pull. And this one, I'm going to put the D-ring in it, okay? And I'm going to put the D-ring on the side that doesn't have where the zipper closes. And I'm going to center that up right on that dot. So there's my D-ring in the loop, and there it is on the dot. Centered. And I'm going to sew that just because it's kind of a lot to get in there and do that. And I'm just going to sew that in place so that it doesn't escape on me. It wants to wiggle away. There we go. And then I'm going to put another tab on the other end the same way. This tab's not going to have a D-ring on it. This tab is just to pull and help get the fabric, get the zipper to move right. But I am going to center it again. Right there. Just like that. Slide that in. Same thing though, I'm going to pre-sew that just because it makes it easier to hold it in place. I suppose if you wanted to pin it, you could pin it. But I got a sewing machine right here. It'll sew it. Why would I pin it? It's quicker and easier. Okay. So now that we've done that, we're going to sew the ends in. So I'm going to line the center of my zipper up with that dot that I made. So here you go. This is why you want to leave that hanging out a little bit. I'm going to leave that just like that. See how that lines up? And I'm going to sew that down. Now, the way I quilted this, I'm sewing over a place that I quilted already, but that's cool. We don't care. And there we go again. Lay that zipper as flat as you can. I could have top stitched on either side of the zipper if I wanted to. It's really not needed on a project this small, but if you really wanted to, you can split that zipper open and top stitch on either side. I don't care. This is not that big a deal as far as needing top stitching. So now I fold this nice and flat again. I pull that zipper back so it's not in my way. And I'm going to line those zipper tapes up flat and open with that center hole, or center dot that I made. There we go. I'm going to hold that in place and we're going to sew. Once you don't have to go through every step of making this like we are today, I can make one of these, gosh, 20 minutes maybe, especially if I got the fabric ready. It's a great quick gift. Fun thing to put a little gift tag in. Okay, so now we have this kind of flat thing here. It looks kind of funny. There you have it. Now that, you could be done at this point. You can flip this out and it's just basically a flat zipper pouch. But we want to do gussets because gussets are fun. Now, I'm going to have to trim my zipper like this. Take these parts off. Don't need those. And those little scissors don't want to cut that. Nope, I need tougher scissors than that. They're not big enough. Try these. These are my Kai scissors. The other scissors Doug Lako gave to me. I don't want to damage those. I was at a retreat. He passed out scissors to everybody because he's a good guy. Okay. So now I've cut those ends off and now I'm going to zigzag again. Same thing, 5.0. I'm going to leave it at 1.5 for the length and I'm going to zigzag because we don't have finished edges. So I'm going to zigzag. Comes my stylus. She's chunking through that a little bit. She's making a little noise. This might be a good time to use your walking foot. This machine is a professional grade machine. She can pretty much handle it. But if your machine is choking on some of this stuff, that's why I'm using this stylus. Sometimes you can push it through with a stylus. The other thing is you need to probably go a little slower. That'll help it too. And then I'm also going to go back and I'm going to trim all this so that it's kind of a clean edge inside. This is another reason why I want to use that 40 weight thread instead of a 50 weight thread or a thinner thread. it gives me a chance to really be sure these edges are going to hold. So now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to trim, straighten that up a little bit. This all will be inside. You won't see it. So it's, you know, visually it's not going to be there. But I like to trim it up. I don't want to have those little nubby things showing up. Trim my threads. Okay. Now I have to cut out for the gussets. Remember, we've done gussets before. So here we go. Let's do some gussets. So she gives you the dimension for the gusset to cut. I gotta look and see what that is because I don't remember. Okay. The gusset size determines how big it is, and basically you could make a gusset any size you want. There's no right or wrong. Pin. I mark these. You want to be sure though. You have to remember I sewed from here. There's a stitch line from here to here. So when I measure the gusset, I measure from the stitch line and this edge. If I measure from this edge and here, I'm going to get a misshapen gusset. And that would be horrible. So I'm going to sew this in, mark this in. And so it looks like it doesn't look like a square, it looks like a rectangle. But that's because I've allowed for my stitching here. If you look from there, if I take that part off, then it does look like a square. And I measure these on all four sides. And we're going to cut that out. That's kind of a scary part too. I think when you sew something together and then you have to cut it up, you know, it's like, oh, I don't want to mess it up. Well, I have. Trust me, you'll make mistakes, but that's okay. They're just learning opportunities. And I'll tell you, if you cut this gusset the wrong size, it just changes the shape of it. It's kind of a fun thing to see how it works it out. Okay, so now I've done that. I'm going to cut these corners out. Okay. And if you watch the first video, this is one of the techniques for doing a gusset. There's several techniques for gussets. This is kind of my favorite. I like this better because I think you get a nicer gusset out of the deal. But that's just my opinion. Cut all four corners. This is again why that quilting kind of helps. You can see the foam's kind of spreading out a little bit. But that quilting holds things flat. There we go. Okay, there's my four little corners. And now, to make the gusset, you just open that up and now I'm going to sew that. Now when I sew it, I want to make sure that the zipper part goes flat that way. If you put the zipper up this way, it's too much bulk. So be sure that sews flat that way. And I'm going to sew all four corners. Same thing, I'm going to straight stitch these and then I'm going to zigzag. So let me get that. Let me show you the first one, then we'll do the other three off camera so you don't have to watch all that. They're all done the same. The main thing is keeping that zipper flat. See that zipper? I want that seam. I don't want it to go that way. I want that seam to go this way. And then it's just a matter of lining that up. Let's go straight stitch, about 1/4 of an inch in. And there you go. So I'm going to do a straight stitch on it first to secure it. And then I'm going to do a zigzag around it, just like I have all the others. So there's my straight stitch. And then I go to my zigzag. There we go. And that made my gusset. And I'm going to do that on all four corners. So let me do that and then we'll turn it inside out and you'll see what we got. So I've sewn all these gussets flat and I've zigzagged them. I've gone back and I've trimmed up all my little dangly threads because you know there's little danglies everywhere. And so I'm just trying to clean it up a little bit so there's less little threads hanging out. But this is what it looks like. So I have gusset, 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 gusset. Zipper's intact. So here it comes. Let's turn it out and see what we get. Na, 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 na. Push these little corners out. Push that little corner out. That little corner out. Looky there. Oh my gosh. It is so stinking cute. A little more trimming to do. It's like getting a haircut. Fold that in. Fold that in. And looky there.
Zipper works.
Zipper works. And these little tabs now.
And no holes.
And no holes. No holes. No holes at the bottom. No holes at the top. Nice and flat. There's a tab to hold when I pull the zipper this way. There's a tab to hold when I pull the zipper that way.
I like how you use the bigger zipper with the bigger pull.
Yeah, I like the bigger pulls.
I don't like those baby zippers. Well, for me personally, because my hands are bigger, they're harder to... I like the robust. It's nice that you can put a robust zipper in this and it looks good.
It does look
good. I think that was what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I like it too. I like it better. And then if I wanted to, I can attach these key fobs to that, the wristlet thing, and I can, you know, I have a little bag to carry around with me and it's all connected.
Hang it in your locker.
Hang it in your locker. Hang it in your locker. Or, of course, I've done, these fabrics don't match. The ones that match, I didn't put them all together. But you can make it all to match. That's the idea. I mean, this is a...
That would fit in a knitting bag real good, too.
It would fit in a knitting bag. And, you know, if you're working, you can hang it up and have it open. And
you could literally make that the size to fit a ball of yarn.
Yes.
And then you can have it on your wrist.
Yeah.
Well, and then you could knit, because it's a yarn ball holder.
Yeah.
And then you can knit on the go.
You could close that up as much as you wanted and then just...
Yeah. You could probably, you know what you could probably do? You could probably put one of those, what are they, grommets to put the yarn out the side.
Well, the problem with the grommet is you got to have a hole in it to get the yarn through it.
You put a hole in it.
Yeah, you put a hole in it.
Because they're taking your class, they're going to learn how to do all that.
They're going to learn how to
stuff.
do all that stuff. So here you go. This is your box. This is the one we made. This is a bitty box. This one's a little bigger because I didn't trim it to the dimensions that she told me in the pattern. I started with a bigger piece here. But isn't that fun? You can see how it still works. It's the same thing. It's just that one's a little bigger than the other. But, you know, they come in sizes.
Could you make this the size to put, like, say, your little canvas dock shoes in? Like, if you want a little bag to put the shoes in?
Well, yeah.
You could just make it bigger, right? All the techniques are the same.
All the techniques.
Ah, I love it.
All the technique is the same. It's just the dimensions that are different.
Your dimensions,
yeah.
Oh, what's that? That's pretty.
There you go. It's just bigger.
That needs to be on my desk. That's going to be my project bag for my sock knitting.
Well, there you go.
It's got a loop and everything.
It's just bigger. Just change the dimensions. I really, really, really hope that you're using all these. Now, yeah, I put a different handle on that.
Oh, that's fun.
Isn't that fun? And that's Mulga's fabric too. That's Mulga. I love Mulga. But that's not hard. Before I close the gusset up, I put the handle in it. I think you could also use like this. Twill, if you wanted to use twill.
Ooh, yeah.
You could use twill to hold that instead. I mean, be creative. You could even take a zipper, fold it in half, and use that to hold your. Wouldn't that be fun if the zipper continued?
Yes.
And it looked like the zipper was the thing. That
would be.
So this is a chance to be creative. If you're, and I get it. Some of us love a pattern. Some of us. You know, when you cook a meal, you follow the pattern exactly. If it says a teaspoon, you put exactly a teaspoon. I pour it in my hand and go, that's close. Right, dump it in. That doesn't work for everybody. I really understand that. But I hope you're using these patterns as a launching pad so that you can create your own projects. That's why we make our own bags. I can walk into any department store and buy a really nice bag. Pay a lot of money for it. If you're buying the materials for this, you know these aren't cheap either. But this is unique. Nobody will have this bag besides me. Or maybe Peter, because it sounds like I have to give him this one to put on his desk. But that's why you do it. So allow yourself to be creative. Allow yourself to take the pattern as just an idea that is a springboard for the next project. So that's month 3 in Capi's a Bag class. Stay tuned for month 4 will be coming in April. And I look forward to seeing what you make. So if you do see this and you're on our Always in Stitches Insiders page, please post your projects that you complete, even if you're not in the class. The class met this past Saturday, and all those people had so much fun seeing these projects, and they always bring in their previous month's projects too. So we want to see what you make, and we hope that you continue to follow us and like us. You need to subscribe to this channel, because this channel, the more you subscribe, the more likely you are to know what's going on. And we do a lot of fun things in this store, and I think I want you to be part of it. So thanks for watching. Have a fabulously happy stitchy day. Bye.